Hey, I'm Yen. Welcome to my channel. This is where I share how I prepare for the trading week. I mostly trade gold, XAUUSD, but the principles can be applied to any asset. This is just my preference. So on Sundays, I mark up my charts, reflect back on the week and explain what I'm looking for in the market. I'll talk through how I think about trades before they happen, but there are no signals here. I'm not predicting price, I'm not telling anyone what to buy or sell. This is about process, structure and execution. I'll also talk openly about trading psychology because knowing what to do is easy. Doing it consistently is the hard part. If you're a trader who wants clarity, not hype, you're in the right place. So let's go on to the charts. So I want to start by quickly walking through what price did last week because context matters more than prediction. Going back to Monday the 5th of Jan, the Asian session opened with a strong move higher and price broke above prior structure around the 4400 area. So I use a pivot indicator to map out swing highs and lows to help me see where price has previously reacted. I don't keep these on permanently, they're just a visual reference for key price points. So during Asian, price held above that level, and when London opened, we saw a strong push into the 4440 area. That told me buyers were in control. After that push, price pulled back and briefly traded underneath the 4400 area. This is where I stop focusing on direction and start watching behaviour now. Since we saw a move back under the 4400 area, that was immediately rejected and snapped back. For me, that showed the downside weren't being accepted. So my target on that move was simply the most recent higher time frame high. So if I go to the 4 hour, we'll be able to see that. Go over here. Right, so right here. Given that we're in all-time high territory though, I am always cautious and had the 4500 area in mind as a psychological level. That target was reached by Tuesday night, so making it roughly a one-day hold. So yeah, after that move, price pulled back again on the higher time frames. A low around 4396 became important because as long as price stayed above that, I consider it a protected low. So from there, I'm not interested in tracing price. I just want to see a pullback that's held above that level and then formed a higher low. The first attempt gave a decent intraday move. So we had a low that printed here, 4423. Still gave a nice move, but it wasn't the full follow through that I was looking for. The deeper pullback came on Thursday when we had a pullback into the 4407 area. Price immediately snapped back, and obviously that pullback did not break the prior low, which I mentioned, of 4396. So I mean, it may look like it did break the previous low because of here, but I like to stick to the higher time frames. If I went to the 4 hour, none of those lows even, it just doesn't even come close. So that's why I always stick to the higher time frames, but I take my entries on the 15-minute and I look at the 1 hour just for context, but the H4 kind of tells you where it's going. So yeah, just zooming out, you can see structure remains bullish, and that's where patience matters because the bias always stays the same, but you want to wait for price to confirm strength again. And obviously, if any of those lows gets broken, then of course you change your bias. So for confirmation, I look for price to show strength on the lower time frame. So that means I will scale down to the 15-minute. I want to see a clean break and close above the most recent intraday highs. So I'm talking like around this area, yeah. So obviously we spoke about 4407, which is where price came to in the New York session, or prior to New York session on Thursday. And then we had that immediate snapback. So again, buyers still in control. So we saw strength come in and price was pushing all the way up. We had a equalish high of the intraday highs here. Price pulled back, again, were higher than the previous low. And then we had the push up to 4479 area, which is what I was looking for. This happened late in the New York session. So again, I'm not entering on the initial move. I want to wait to see how price behaves after it. And during the following Asian session, that's when price pulled back and started to print lower highs. Or should I say higher lows? Sorry, higher lows on the lower time frame. So this is the kind of behavior that I want to see before getting involved. And from there, the idea is simple. I'm just looking for price to rotate back to all the prior highs on the higher time frame, which again, we're talking about the 4500 and then higher levels above that as a reference. So potentially the 4550 area, which is all-time high and maybe beyond. So going into the new week, my bias on gold remains bullish as long as the lows are around 4396 and around 4408 continue to hold. I'm interested in higher prices. This is where I've kind of got my blue box here. If the Asian session opens and continues higher, that tells me that momentum is still there. If we pull back first, that's fine too, as long as that pullback stays above these lows as mentioned. What I don't want to see is acceptance back below these levels, as if that happens, I'll step aside and reassess, whereas essentially my bias would have very likely changed. Best case scenario for me is a pullback that holds above these levels, followed by strength returning during London or New York, and price pushing back toward the highs and potentially into the new all-time high territory. If price goes quiet and chops, then I'll just stay patient. I don't need to be in a trade just because it's Monday. So that's my view going into the week. I'm not here to predict price, just to prepare and respond. If this kind of market prep and process-based thinking helps you, feel free to subscribe. I'll post these every Sunday. I'll share updates during the week and I'll review how price actually behave next time. You can follow me on Instagram. I'll put all my handles in the description here. But yeah, trade safe and I'll see you in the next one.